Okay. Anyway, let's first go to the key idea is that the research on comfort women tends to be very sensationalized, politicized, and selective. Okay. For those who are learning English, what does selective mean? Okay. So selective means what? Right, 선택적이야, right? That oftentimes people, they just see one part of reality, okay? Instead of the whole picture, okay? That's what we mean by selective. And a good example might be, we always talk in terms of X leads to Y, right? You know, what are we trying to explain? One Y is the historical presence. So we know for a fact that there were Korean comfort women in the Japanese army bases, okay? We know that as a fact. But the debate is, why were they there? And we have competing theories, okay? So the first theory is that what? You know, the first theory that, you know, many people in Korea say is that those women were at the, you know, Japanese army camp because why? They were what? Shik. Right, they were kidnapped by Japanese soldiers, okay? And this was something that this one soldier said. He said, I went to like Jeju-do Island, I kidnapped all these Korean women, okay, when I was a Japanese soldier. That was his claim. But claim number two might be that maybe it wasn't the Japanese soldiers who grabbed you. So you're like, okay, maybe somebody else grabbed you. Who grabbed you? If not soldiers, who brought you to the camp? If not Japanese soldiers, okay? Come on. Think of somebody besides Japanese soldiers. It can also be who? Come on, you read the intro chapter, right? Sometimes it was what? Is what? It was a what? Not necessarily government, because it was, Korea was controlled by Japan, right? So the government was Japan, okay? But then if you read the intro and chapter 1, sometimes a woman were taken to the camp, not by government officials, not by Japanese soldiers, but by brokers. Okay? How do we say brokers in Korean? Broker. Oh, okay. Anyway, let's learn some Korean words. Let's say broker. Okay. And how do we say comfort women in Korean? We call it, right, everybody say 위안부. Right, 위안부. Okay? Right, comfort women. Okay? So sometimes it was not the soldiers or Japanese government officials. Sometimes it was brokers. Okay? Brokers are like people who get money to, you know, like a headhunter. People who get money to recruit workers. So in this case, they needed sex workers. So these were Korean or Japanese brokers. Actually, most of them were Korean. Okay, so these Korean ajumas, they would tell the girls like, you know, come with me, I can get you a nice job. Okay, maybe at a factory or at the cafeteria. You can make better money than here. Okay, and so they kind of either they lied or they were kind of vague about the kind of job. Okay, number two, and also. Sometimes it wasn't the Japanese soldiers, it wasn't the brokers, it was what? It was also who pushed the girls to go to work as comfort women. Sometimes it was the, what? Korean who? No! Why you blame everything on government? A lot of times it was the parents. Because back in the old days, the parents, you know, not all parents, I'm sure your parents love you, right? They love you? Okay. But many parents, what they think about daughters, they think they're what? High value or low value? Yeah, very low value. Girls will consider very low value, okay? And so, so some of the parents, they just sold their daughters, okay, to these brokers for money. And then the final thing, which is that what the author emphasized is that, well, maybe the girls themselves wanted to go. Okay? Not necessarily because they thought that sex work was great, but they thought it was better than the alternative. They just wanted to get away. Okay? Because anything was better than staying at home. Okay? So why would people want to run away from home? Okay? people might run away from home because at home, what kind of things might happen? Come on. Okay, let's do this row. Okay? So what are some bad things or oppressive things that might happen at home? Yeah, at the girl's home. Yeah, but what kind of oppression?
Is it like girls need to take care of 3 meals in the family?
Oh, they often have to like cook and clean and do many things, but also they didn't have the freedom to do things like, because this was a time when Korea was becoming modernized. Okay? And so modern women, what do they want to do? They want to what?
Break away.
They want to break away and do things like what? And what they want, such as, what do you want to do? What are you doing right now? You're getting a what?
Education.
Right, you're getting an education. You're looking for a job. Good luck. Okay? But, before getting a job, young people, including young women, they wanted to get an education. They wanted to make money. They wanted to be independent women. Okay? So this was a time, like in the early 20th century, when modernization came to Korea. Okay? And then all these people, including women, they wanted to do something new, be a new woman. Okay? And so when these ajumas, these brokers came, they said, I give you opportunity to get away from home, to travel somewhere new, learn something new, make your own money. Many women said yes. Okay? And sometimes they knew what the job was, sometimes they didn't know. Okay? But sometimes even when they knew what the job was, that it was to work as a comfort woman, they said it's better than just staying home. Okay? And so the idea was that come to the camp, be a Wiambu for like maybe like a year or two, make a lot of money, and then you can go and do your own thing. Okay? And so for many women, they thought this is better than maternity. So the point is that there were many, many complex reasons. It's not just like kidnap. Okay? All right. So that's why number one. Why were there comfort women in the camp, in the Japanese army? Okay? Now, let's go to the other side. The second question, this is a question that especially many Japanese people ask. Okay? Which is that why are these women suing the Japanese government? Why are they asking for apology and reparations from the Japanese government? Okay? And again, there is competing theories, competing claims. So one is that obviously, one reason why these women might be suing the Japanese government is what? That they're actually what? Yeah, they're actually victims. Okay? They're actually, they're genuine survivors of sexual slavery. They were coerced. Okay? They were forced to work as Wiambu. Either maybe they were kidnapped or maybe they were fooled. They were given the wrong information. But they had no freedom of choice. Okay? But the second theory is that maybe they're lying. And so this is actually something that that I heard from many Japanese people, that the women are lying. Okay? They were lying just to get money, either from the Korean government or from the Japanese government. Okay? Because if you can claim to be a Wiambu for the Japanese army, you get money from the Korean government. You get housing. You can stay at the house of sharing, okay, where we're going to go this Saturday. And so you get certain financial incentives to claim that you're a victim. Okay? And so, if you read Japanese newspapers or listen to the Japanese version of Airway, you hear many of these rumors that these women, are they really telling the truth or do they just want the money? Okay? And if you actually read the comfort women, I think it's in the later chapters, some of the comfort women themselves say that I'm telling the truth, but these other women are lying. They're just doing it to get the money. So there's even like disagreement among the people who claim to be comfort women themselves. But the third theory is that it's a gray area. Okay, gray means that we're not quite sure because these women, they did serve as comfort women, but maybe not because they were kidnapped by Japanese soldiers, but because of things like family pressure or personal choice. So maybe their parents sold them, or they just wanted to get away. But because of pressure by Korean government and society, they they make the claim that no, it was the Japanese government's fault, okay? Because they face a lot of pressure from Korean society, media, and government to say that, because like if you read the Korean media, or like when you go to comfort women museums, you read these, like you see all these movies. It's mostly like Koreans good, Japanese bad, right? But if these women come out and tell stories like, oh no, it was actually my parents who sold me, then it makes Koreans look very what? Bad. And it makes the situation not black and white. Okay? And so for those who are invested in a black and white narrative, they downplay the stories where the parents sold the girls. They upplay. They highlight the stories where it was more like coercion. Okay? So anyway, so you have these theories 1, 2, and 3. What really led to why? Okay? So again, you have these competing narratives, and as scholars, as students, we have to find out what really happened, and for who. Okay? All right. Emily, you had a question?
Even if the parents sold their daughters, that's sure makes Korea look bad, but at the same time, it's still a power relations. Like they did it because, like, probably they were quite poor, or they've been like, well, probably because they were poor, right? Not because they thought it was fun. Yeah. Yeah, of course, gender factors. No, but that's also like power relations. So I mean, it's I know it's still gray, but it's not. It's still like you have Japan still have greater powers than Korea. Yeah.
That's fine. And actually, Sarah agrees with you. You know. Okay.
And I think I also agree that Japan also has some sort of responsibility in this, that there was a market for these girls, and it was big enough for the Koreans to know about it and have brokers to sell these women as slaves. So in a way that despite how they became these slaves, there was still
Right. So the Japanese government played a role, either directly or indirectly.
It doesn't mean that the parents were great people.
Right.
It just means that you have to think
I mean,
about the power
right.
relations.
Yes.
That's fine. And do you think Sarah So agrees with you, the author? Pretty much, or not so much?
Yeah, I don't think there's always a blame on one side. So, but I think Sarah would agree on that sense that it's not solely on the person or the parent or one government.
Sure. Actually, I think Sarah will agree with you 100%. Anthropologist, okay? So, and they're very liberal people, right? So Sarah is an anthropologist at San Francisco State University. You cannot get more liberal than that, okay? And so Sarah So, the author of this book, this is the best English language book, probably the best book ever, okay? What in any language on the comfort women, because she's very liberal, but she's also a social scientist. She wants to find the truth, okay? And she considers and if you think about Sarah So's personal background, she says I'm Korean. I was born in Korea. I love Korea. At the same time, I consider myself as a social scientist, and 2, I consider myself as kind of like this universal human rights feminist. Okay, so she believes in these kind of universal human rights, and she says that although of course we want Japan to be responsible and to pay reparations, so she supported the 1995 reparations, okay, by Maruyama. At the same time, she argues that because there's so much nationalism, anti-Japanese nationalism, it kind of obscures this search for justice, okay? Which leads to my next point, which is that her key claim is that if you look at the cover of the book, okay, the summary of the book, that the key claim for Sarah is that anti-Japanese nationalism undermines universal justice and search for the whole truth, okay? And so let me go back to what Emily said, right? That yes, Japan did play a role, even if the parents sold the daughters. Okay. At the same time, let's say what you said was true, but if you publicize that, okay, that because of the Japanese army, they created this big market for sex workers, for comfort women, okay, and so many Korean ajumas and parents, they pushed their daughters, they sold their daughters, okay. So but if you publicize that narrative, it makes Korea-Japan relations more complicated, and it also connects what happened to Japan, the wianbu among Japanese soldiers, with the women who worked for the American army. Okay, because right now many activists say the situation with the Japanese army and the situation with the American army is totally different. Okay, that is a claim that the women in the Japanese army had no choice; they were slaves. But the women in the Korean army, they had freedom and choice. They were not slaves. So it's kind of like black and white. Okay? But Sarah so argues that no, it's not black and white. There's actually a very gray area. That in both cases, many ajumas and parents pushed their daughters, okay, to work as people use different terms. Okay? The activists for the Japanese army women, they would get very angry at you if you call the women for the American soldiers comfort women, because they say we should just call them prostitutes. But the women who work for the American army said, no, we were wianbu too. We're not just prostitutes, okay? Because from their perspective, this is a news article that I sent you, okay? They said that it was the Korean government who set up these stations, these camps. And they call these camps like comfort women stations. So it was a Korean government who called us comfort women to serve the American soldiers. Okay, we were not just prostitutes. We were helping the Korean government, American government. So anyway, so I'm just saying it makes the two cases more linked. Okay. Anyway, so basically the bottom line is that if you focus on anti-Japanese nationalism, you obscure by focusing on anti-Japanese nationalism, you only focus on the suffering of the women in the Japanese army, and you minimize the suffering of women in other contexts, whether in the American army or at home or just in society. Because in Korean society in the early 20th century, there were many cases of sexual violence against women, okay? And I think in the intro chapter, I'm not sure if you remember, but Sarah so mentioned this example where there was like a Japanese invasion, and some of the Korean men, they pretended to be what? They pretended to be, Japanese soldiers, okay? So they could commit sexual violence on their own countrywomen, okay? Okay, moving on. Part 3 is that in the modern world, in the old days, being a victim was not considered a good thing. But today, since World War II, there is a strong social incentive to claim that one is a victim. And then you can make links. Is anybody from Cambodia or visited Cambodia? Okay. Okay, I know, but you visited. Anybody else visit Cambodia? Oh, okay. So Cambodia is a very nice country, but Cambodia is, in a way, is like Korea like 30, 40 years ago. Poor. And women are not valued. And so many women are sold. There's a lot of trafficking among women. Okay? And then one of the women, her name is a Somali mom. Okay? She claimed that, I'm a victim, I was a sex slave, I was trafficked, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So she became very famous. She was friends with Oprah Winfrey. She was written about in the New York Times. And then she wrote a book, The Road of Lost Innocence, which generated millions of dollars. But then later, people found out that her personal story wasn't true, according to Newsweek. And so, she portrayed herself as a victim. And because of that, she got a lot of personal attention from the Western media. She made a lot of money. But then later, they found that it wasn't true. Another famous example was Rigor Menchu. I think she's from Guatemala. Anyone been to Guatemala or Central America? Okay. Anyway, you been there? Oh, okay, right. And okay, Central America in general. Okay. Again, Central America, Guatemala, there was many wars, violence. And she claimed that, my tribe was decimated, my family was killed, my parents were killed. And after she told the story, she became famous. And then later she won the Nobel Prize. Okay? And then again, some investigators found out that her story, half of it was not true. Okay? But I don't want to just say like these women lie because they're bad people. But then these women, they also face certain like social incentives that in today's world, especially Western media, you will get a lot more media attention and prizes if you can portray yourself as in some way a victim, that somebody did bad things to you. Okay? For example, like who won the Nobel Prize for peace this year? Does anyone know? Yes? Right, the girl from Pakistan. Oh, wait. Pakistan. Right, she was from Pakistan. Right, Malina, right? And then, she's only like, 12, 13? She's 14, okay? But she became famous not because of anything that she did. Okay, she didn't build school. She didn't save, she wasn't a doctor who saved many lives, okay? So she didn't do a lot of big things. But it was something, but she won the prize. She became famous because of something that happened to her. She was victimized. What happened to her? Right, she was shot. She was shot by the Taliban. Okay? Because I think she was advocating for, women's right to go to school. And actually many women advocate for women's rights in Pakistan. They're strong, they're brave fighters. But she was young. She was only like 12 or something, and she got shot. And because she got shot, she was sent to England, and she became this global celebrity because people said, oh, look at her, victimized by the Taliban. Okay? Actually, her story is true. Let's hope so. Okay? Okay, would you say?
I wouldn't say that people would feel sorry for her or feel like she's a victim. More like she's standing up for something she really believes in, and it's like, I'm not going to let the Taliban's kill me for wanting to go to school. So I wouldn't say that she's victimized in that kind of sense.
I think it was a combination that she was fighting for what she believed in, times the fact that she was shot.
Yeah, of course, but that's, I don't know.
Because many women fight for what they believe in, right? And she's only like 14 or 15.
Yeah.
There's other people who are like 50 or 60 and they devoted like 30, 40, 50 years to like going to like faraway countries, sacrificing their whole life, doing all this hard work. Okay? And I'm not saying that Marina didn't do a lot of work, but she's so young. And then she doesn't even live in Pakistan anymore. She lives in England. And so her activism was just like 1 or 2 years. But instead of the Western media recognizing all these other people who spent like 20, 30, 40 years working hard, building schools, building institutions, in the old days, these were the kind of people who won the Nobel Prize. But today, I'm not saying this is right, but I'm just saying that there is a tendency in the global media, especially the Western media, to really highlight victims of something, whether it's the Taliban or sexual trafficking or slavery. Okay. Oh, I know. I'm just saying there are other examples. I'm sure, right? Okay. Then what's a better example? Okay. Right. Well, you agree with me because I say it was a Western media that highlights people who are victims. But I think because of the Western media portrayal of Melina, I think that was a key factor in her winning the Nobel Prize. Okay, or maybe let's just skip the Nobel Prize then. Okay, the fact that let's just focus on Western media portrayal. Okay, all right. Now, the final point I wanted to mention is the politics of suffering, which is that why are some victims recognized and other victims are not? Okay? Just to give you a small example, when I did, okay. Does anyone read 조선일보? Who read 조선일보? Sometimes. Don't you read? You're a poli-sci major. But come on, at least Korean speakers, most of you read 조선일보, right? 조선일보 읽어 안 읽어? Yeah. Okay, good. That's what I said. So just say yes. Anyway, I went to 조선일보 and then I did like keyword search, okay? Because let me see if I have the keyword search here. Well, basically, remember I told you like about last month, Korean women, former Korean, like this is a title in Western newspapers, right? So many Western newspapers publicize the fact that these women who work for the American soldiers, they sue the Korean government. Okay, this was in Reuters, this was in New York Times, this was in other Western newspapers, but it was not in the 조선일보. It was not in most Korean newspapers. So when I went to 조선일보 and I typed in keyword American Army prostitutes, and the only result I got were comfort women for Japan. Do you see? Let me do that keyword search right now. Right, so if you do like American Army prostitutes, okay? They never talk about any of the women who work for the American Army in Korea. It's all about Japan, okay? And so the question is, why is the Korean media focused only on the women for the Japanese army, but not the American army? Why is it that some people's suffering is recognized and other people are not? Okay, that's one example. Another example can be, let me see now. Okay, oh, right. Okay, another example can be this. Okay, this was Japan in 1945, Tokyo. Okay, as you can see, this. What do you see? What? Do you see any like buildings or? No, it's all smashed. You see nothing. Okay, this was in Tokyo after the air raid. Everything was smashed. Okay, only maybe like very few buildings were left standing. And then also, like some people were basically like burned alive. Okay, so this is a mother and her son. And then I think that maybe in the past, like Americans didn't really learn things like this, and also maybe Koreans, maybe even now you don't look at you don't learn about the suffering that Japanese people face. Okay, because in a way it's not like. The idea is that we suffered more than they, or it's like if you recognize their suffering, that it makes our suffering look a little bit maybe less valuable. Okay, so for many years, like Americans, until recently, and maybe Koreans still today, they never recognized the suffering that Japanese people faced, during the Second World War. But I think recently, more and more, Americans are beginning to recognize. Okay. And because they want a more balanced perspective, that yes, Japanese people bombed Pearl Harbor, but we bombed Japan maybe like 1,000 times more. Okay, okay. So anyway, a lot of bad things happen in war. Okay. The final point is that in terms of the politics today. So the Asahi Shimbun, which is a liberal Japanese newspaper, claims that this kind of nationalist crusade undermines political compromise and cooperation. Okay? Let's get somebody in the back to read this. Okay. Why are you guys so quiet today? Okay. What's your name? Okay, not you. Can you read the yellow hair? Can you read the yellow paragraph? Or can you come up? Yeah. Okay. I want more interaction. Okay, and maybe some reaction. What's your name?
My name is Nakyu.
Nakyu. Okay. Can you read the paragraph in Japan?
Can I see the
Yeah,
one?
you can read it here in Japan.
In Japan, books denouncing South Korea have come into vogue, while at the same time, South Korean organizations are working to build comfort women status in statues and outside the country. You are concerned that as a result of such futile provocations from both sides, the most important issue, relief for victims, would be ignored.
Right. Do you see? So do you understand what the newspaper is saying? So he's saying that what's happening in Japan right now? In Japan these days, people are writing more and more books denouncing what? Denouncing South Korea. Okay? especially after that President Lee Myung-bak landed on Tokyo, many Japanese became very angry at her. And on the other hand, what are Koreans doing? They're building what?
Statues.
Right, they're building more and more statues. Have you guys seen any of the comfort woman statues? Actually, if you go, have you seen it? Where did you see it? 어디서 봤어? Right, it's in front of the Japanese embassy. And so, in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul, and also in front of the Japanese embassy in other countries, more and more communities are building comfort women statues. Okay? To kind of put pressure on the Japanese government. Okay? But Asahi Shimbun is arguing that those statues are what? They're kind of what? Can you read this one? Futile.
Futile provocations.
What's futile provocation mean? What does a provocation mean? Provoke means what?
Start a fight.
Yeah, starting a fight, make you angry. Okay? But what does futile mean? Futile. You don't.
Look up in my dictionary.
Okay, no, just ask people. They know good English.
Okay.
One of these guys. Ask somebody. What is futile? Nobody knows futile? Okay. Alright, futile means it works or not works.
Works.
No! Not works. Okay, one out of two. Okay? It's a good SAT GRE word. Okay? So futile means that these statues, these books, they make the other side angry, and it does not work. Okay? This is a claim. Do you agree with the claim or disagree?
I agree.
Agree? Why? So what is the purpose of making these comfort women statues?
To make Japanese government or officials to apologize
Right.
to South Korea.
And do you think is that gonna work?
I think it's very similar to the situation that we send the balloons to North Korea. That's such a
It's a
similar.
provocation?
Yes,
And
but
it's futile?
I think
Okay.
so. It goes the same way with the Japanese people to see our behavior as a very hostile, because building the statues in the right in front of the officials Japanese embassy is like like they are literally start fighting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a big provocation in front of the Japanese embassy, because embassy is very important. That's where all the Japanese tourists go, right? If they have any problems or questions, and so you're arguing that it's like a slap in the face. Okay. And also it's futile. It's gonna lead to a worse reaction. But then what would be better? What's a better solution there instead of building statues?
I think the building statues is kind of a symbol that.
Okay.
So, but I think we need more realistic conversation or understanding of each other in more official ways.
Okay, more official or unofficial?
I think it should be official because the building statues is not by our government. I think it's mostly done by NGOs or like
Right, a lot of
yeah
NGOs.
private groups, but it should be done by government as the history should be. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think civil society can also play a positive role? Because it's kind of like North Korea, right? There's some NGOs who throw a lot of balloons. It's kind of provocative. Nakview claims that it's futile provocation. But then other NGOs, they try to engage in a more positive way, right? Like KUS or like Love North Korea Ministries. Okay? And so maybe you can claim that not just government, but also NGOs can also promote relations in a positive way.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Does anybody disagree with Mr. Nakview that you argue that statues are a good way to pressure the Japanese government? Come on, let's have a good debate. Give me the strongest counter argument for Mr. Nakview. What's your last name?
Kim.
Kim, Mr. Kim. Maybe they want to say this in a small group. Okay. All right. Anything else or question? Why so? I want you to have more energy. You had chocolate. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, I wanted to maybe you can break up into small groups. Okay. Just have a kind of small group discussion. But before we do so, just a few announcements. One, just Pri here. Oh, she's not here. Just Pri. I thought she was gonna come today. Oh, okay. Anyway, she volunteered to. She's good in English. So if you want somebody to correct your grammar and style, just send it to her, and she promised to correct your paper. Okay? Because she missed a lot of classes, so she need makeup points. All right. This is our schedule for the discussants. So okay. Everybody has to sign up at least once. I emailed this to you. Okay. And then this Saturday, we have our very exciting field trip, right? So I'm hoping that everybody can go. Who can go from this class? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe. Okay, 7. Everybody else, try to go. This is like once in a lifetime opportunity, especially for the international students. Okay, this is a house of sharing. They have an international team. They're organizing a bus and everything to meet you. Okay, so they're putting a lot of work. So you're gonna, so as you can see, we're gonna meet 11:20 at Hanyang Plaza. Okay, make sure everybody goes to the bathroom. You have to leave by 11:25, 11:30, because you have to meet me at 12 o'clock. Okay, I'm gonna meet you at the Gambang station at exit 1. The museum people will be there, and the bus will leave exactly at 12:10. Okay, in case somebody needs to go to the bathroom again. And then at 13:15, there's an intro, watch a video, museum tour, Q&A, visit one or two of the grandmothers. Okay, if you want, you can bring some pepero or maybe a gift. Okay, maybe you can bring like a Hanyang T-shirt or something. Okay, so if you have a gift idea, let me know on Friday, and then maybe we can all chip in like a chana, okay, to buy a gift for the grandmothers, okay. And then at 5 o'clock, you dana, okay. So please go to House of Sharing with an open mind. You can ask any question you like, but please do not say that Professor E said this and that. I don't want to get in trouble, and I do want my. I want them to invite us next semester too, okay? So don't say like Professor E said like you're, blah, 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 okay? No, I never said that, okay? It's better to say, I heard this or I read this from Sarah So, okay? Okay? My buddy of mine, or just I read this book which said this, what do you think, okay? Anyway, so go with an open mind. Do not mention me. Just say like I'm a nice man who gives chocolates. Okay? All right. If you're interested in writing essays like Mr. Kim, you want to say like balloons are bad, statues are bad, we need a better way, then write an essay if you have a good idea for improving Korea, China, Japan cooperation. You can get money, okay? And my students in the past, they also written articles. They published in the Korea Times, Korea Times and journals, okay? Also, if you're interested, tomorrow are any of you guys interested in applying to grad school someday? Graduate school, like in the United States? Anyway, if you're interested in applying to graduate school, I'm going to have a special class tomorrow, 3:30, on how to write a statement of purpose. Okay? Because there's about, I think you might know Heather, she's going to apply to grad school, so I'm teaching her how to write a statement of purpose. I want her to go to good schools. Okay? So if you're interested, come. Okay. Okay, right. That's basically it. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Kim. General writing skills. It's basically like, it's called a statement of purpose. It's like, when you apply to like master's or especially PhD program, like especially in the United States, you have to show, why do you want to come? It can't be just like, oh, I want a PhD, I want to be a paksa. No, we don't do that in America. Okay, you have to show real interest, like a real research plan. Okay, and so I'm gonna show you an example, like a sample of a good SOP. Do you understand? No, it's not about writing skills. You do that in this class every day, right? Every day with me and also with Jeffrey, we show you how to write a better sentence. That you need a claim. You need to support your claim, address, and if possible, address the counterclaim. That is how you write good essays. Okay? This is something a little different. This is to show that you have a strong agenda, to go to, to get a PhD. Okay? And so I know that most of you, you don't want PhD, so this is just for this. So I'm just doing a specialized class for people who are interested. So it's tomorrow, 3:30 here. Okay. All right. That's basically it. No, I told them you were coming. I already made a group reservation. Okay, so I could save you guys time. So we did this. I've been planning for this for a long time. So yeah, so you just have to come. You just have to bring 15,000 won, 15,000 won, because I don't have money. I spent it all on the chocolates. Okay, so bring your own money for the bus and museum. Again, I think it's a lifetime experience. Okay, I think this is a really great way to learn about comfort women and also learn about why Koreans don't like Japan. Okay, Korean nationalism. Okay, if there is nothing else, let's go ahead and break up into our small groups for about 15 minutes to discuss chapter 1. Okay, to discuss the intro chapter, and then I want to go to the team that you met before, but I want one of the teams to sit next to me. Okay, so every class I want to sit next to a different team. I want to get to know you guys. Okay, all right. So join your team, and then one of the teams come to Professor E. Okay, if you haven't done so far. Okay, let's go. Come on, just 15 minutes. Come on, this is part of class. You have to learn something from each other. Ask each other, what did you learn from the intro chapter? Okay. I want one of the teams to meet here. Everybody has to join a team. Let's go. Two teams can become, you can merge teams if if you don't have enough people. Did you guys meet me last week? Why don't you come meet me today? Don't you miss me? Okay. All right. Now let's sit here. Oh, actually, maybe no. Never mind. I can move the camera here. All right. Our team: Emily, Miss what? Miss Yuna, Juna. What? Yan. Okay. What's your last name? Park? Chang? Ye? Linda. Wow, everyone's different. Okay. Okay. So the variety. Oh, I was going to say that I read all your summaries and then about Israel. Actually, a lot of Israelis do not consider the United Nations to be a credible source. Because I think it's partly because remember, I think in the 70s the UN passed a resolution condemning Zionism. Yeah, they said Zionism is racism. So anyway, because there's some, it depends on the panel. There's some UN panels which are kind of biased against Israel, and because of those few panels, some Israelis think that all of the United Nations is biased. But I do agree that some panels are biased, but not all. But
It's like all sources that you ever read will probably be biased in one way or another. You just have to decide, okay, I trust the UN most of the time. Because you have to decide.
UN is too broad. Depends on the panel, right? Some panels are very scientific and objective. Other panels are very politicized. Okay. Anyway, that's number one. And then was there something else? Oh. Anyway, I read the newspaper about those PUS students, and then they got into 3 universities, Westminster, Cambridge, and Uppsala. Yes? Really? Oh, you make me feel so excluded. Can you email me today? Okay, yes. Yes.
They did? When? But I'm not surprised.
Okay, have you visited or do you know people there? Yeah.
That's my university.
Oh, really? Oh, you're so proud. They love North Koreans.
No, it is you said that this person was from the most liberal university. I mean, I think Uppsala is, of course they come to Uppsala. It's of course, we'll be oh, we love everyone.
Uppsala loves everyone?
They're really political correct and liberal, and not all of Uppsala, but a lot. I'm also anthropologist, also a feminist. It's yeah. We're so close to that group.
Students from PUS. They're going to her university.
Are they there now?
Okay, what?
Are they there now?
Yeah, I think they're. Well, the article was in 2013.
Really?
Yeah, that they enrolled at Uppsala. So.
Oh my God!
I don't know how. I don't know how many semesters they're staying. It's probably like an exchange program. They're probably just there for 1 or 2 semesters.
Yeah, probably like an exchange, but we can't go there. No, we can't go to North Korea. I mean, in my exchange, because I applied for South Korea. So.
Maybe not now. Maybe
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah.
But you can't go as a teacher.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
I didn't know there was Uppsala. I'm gonna look them up.
When you go back, you say, "Hey."
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, let's do a little achievement.
Yeah.
Let's go. You can bring your monitor.
Yeah.
Your Korean spy monitor.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll do that.
Yeah. I'm sure they have monitors from the embassy looking out for them.
Sure.
Yeah, so you can say, hey, they can go to Chimak too.
But it's not a coincidence because Sweden has an embassy in North Korea.
You have an embassy?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sweden has an embassy that takes care of basically all the other countries, like the U.S. as well. Did
Right.
you read that the U.S. People who were
Yeah, they were released.
they thanked the Swedish embassy?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because
Okay.
we're the only ones.
All right, let's take a minute break. 1 minute break. North Korea news. Thanks to Swedish embassy, the 2 Americans were released from North Korea. Say thank you, Sweden.
I did it.
Yeah.
That was actually me.
You were either her or friends at the embassy. And number
Yeah.
2, I told you about those students from PUS, right? They went to 3 universities: Cambridge, Westminster, and Emily's University, Uppsala.
I didn't know. Yeah.
you, Sweden.
You're welcome.
Yeah. You love North Korea and
Yeah,
America.
I guess we do.
Okay, now go back. Talk about the suffering.
Yeah.
Okay, the suffering. Oh yeah. Anyway, so let's go back to the suffering. So, you guys all read intro, right? You have any thoughts?
I agree that there has been various routes of how the comfort woman became the comfort woman. I think, as you talked about, like 조선일보 doesn't really talk about the current comfort woman for the U.S. Army, and I think, yeah, it is a very 조선일보 is very, what is it, the conservative, and yeah, they are kind of biased, but I think this is because of in the Korean situation, we believe that at that period it was very compulsory, and the parents wasn't really sure about what they were really doing, and they just sent their children to those places. And I think that cannot be like good. Putting the blame on us, the Koreans, is not right. I feel that, and I feel that is why 조선일보 only talks about the past comfort women, because the current comfort women, I believe that it is somewhat of their choice, and they have kind of a thought of what they're doing. But at the war period, I think it wasn't really possible, and so the Japanese government and the people needs to be more kind of thoughtful about this war situation, and yeah, feel that, yeah.
But you know, like 1950s and 60s was kind of war situation too.
Yeah.
So maybe the women who work with that's if you go to Comfort Woman Museum, they get very angry at you if you use the term Comfort Woman for the women in the American Army. So I just use the term women workers. They use the term Comfort Woman for themselves because that's how the government is writing. Anyway, just to warn you in advance. Don't say Professor Lisa, okay? That's what you learn. Oh, that's actually an interesting question. Like, to what extent the women in the Japanese army thought that it was compulsory versus the women in the American army. And actually, that's why, like, I want to interview the women in the American army. And so, when I contacted the Comfort Women Museum, I asked them, do you know any organizations that work with Americans? And then the person who emailed me got very angry and said, there's no connection, whatever, between our situation and their situation. Don't even mention us as an example. And I thought that was very interesting because I think in Europe and also in America, people who work for women's rights in one area, they want to support women's rights in other areas. And so if you fight for the rights of women workers in the Japanese army, then you want to fight for the rights of women workers in the American army or in Vietnam or in other places, right? But in Korea, it's very separate. So the activists who fight for women's rights against Japan, they don't talk about women's rights versus American army or the Vietnamese women's rights against the Korean army. So those cases are like invisible. You understand what I'm saying, right? Right.
I think that was very interesting about this. Probably that's what we're going to read in the book, I guess. That, and especially if you're all like feminist, believe in the structures, not in individual situations. Like you don't. Well, yeah, basically all feminists. If like domestic violence, you don't think that depends on just that woman or that relationship. It depends on structures. It's the same thing here. It's just interesting because, yeah, like you said, you would support all the women that's in this whole structure of patriarchy. Yeah, and it's not just about these horrifying stories. It's about all the horrifying stories. A lot. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Okay. What's your name?
Chuha. Well,
I think, as she said, Joseon newspaper is one of the most conservative newspaper of Korea. So, and also they are really, popular but conservative and really U.S. friendly newspaper. U.S. friendly, yeah.
I don't know if they're US friendly. I think they're more American.
Yeah, yeah.
So nobody really likes America.
So, like, they think very well. They think anyway, U.S. Army rescued South Korea from some communist ideology. Therefore, usually, Joseon newspaper does not mention about very negative side of American army. So well, like 한겨레, other newspaper. If you just type some keyword about American and U.S. Army comfort women, then you can see lots of articles about that. So I read. 위안부. 미군 위안부. Right. So, I read one article about that was individual film studios movie about U.S. Army's comfort women problem, and it was about 7-minute film like that, and it maybe still now on the theater live, somewhere.
According to the theory, was it kind of, did the woman have free choice, or was it kind of there was pressure?
Well, that article didn't mention very details about American comfort women problem, but at that time, the article said there was also serious human rights problem in violence in the U.S. Army. So lots of the scapegoats from that problem try to introduce their history. However, lots of Koreans do not care about their stories and just focused on Japanese comfort problem. So they try to want to introduce by the film, like easy way to. No, I don't. Okay. Okay, I will try.
And if you find the activist, maybe call Hyundai and say,
Okay.
I love you guys. Can you tell me who are the activists working for the Viva camp? Okay? So find out who they are and invite them to class.
Okay.
And I give you extra credit. Right? Because they don't have money for their own museum, so let's invite them here. Where did you grow up, by the way?
I was born in Korea,
Okay.
and I left when I was 7.
7?
Yeah.
Oh, me too. To where?
To to an island in the South Pacific. Yeah. I grew up there for 4 years, and then
Was it like paradise, or you were like bored to death?
it was like paradise. It was voted the happiest place on earth twice, in 2008 and 2012. And the movie South Pacific was also filmed there. Yeah, so
That means you're a nice person.
means I'm a great person.
But you didn't live there when it was the happiest place?
I did. I was there. Yeah.
It was the happiest place.
Yeah, it was the happiest place when I was there because I was there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just this plant. This is not Disneyland.
Nope.
Anyway, so go on.
Right.
So what do you think about Japan? You like Japan? You hate Japan? You don't have any personal feelings?
I dislike Japan quite a bit.
Dislike Japan?
Right. There were very personal experiences that caused me to really dislike them. But I mean, I don't hate them. like individually or anything. It's more of the government, the state policies, and the way they portray themselves. Like they're mostly against South Korea, which is what I don't like. Why can't we just kind of get along and try to work on an issue together? But it's almost as if like we do not, whatever the issue is, we don't want to be on the same page. We don't want to be on the same side. Like we always have to be conflicting each other because we don't like each other, or one like for us it's like the Japanese government is terrible, and then the Japanese, like South Koreans are stupid, or they don't know what they're talking about. And I think that causes the conflicts, and it's almost as if they want to keep the conflicts going. And it's kind of the same thing that the South Koreans do with the North Korean conflict. It's almost as if we want to keep that, peace, but at the same time we want to have that tension so that we're on that edge. Like we're not hating each other, but at the same time we don't want to like each other.
So how can you make the situation better? Invite everybody to your event?
I think globalization is definitely helping. At least it's getting the word out. Well, as Koreans, we go travel in Japan, and Japanese people too. They started liking our pop culture and things like that. So some sort of integration is good, and that's probably a good start. And I think the government isn't necessarily going to change very soon, because the people who are in the government at the moment are still people of our past generation. So perhaps like our generation right now who have lived through globalization will be able to somehow change that in the future. But as of now, I don't know.
There is like the edge, and we are trying to keep the tension. I believe that it's because like we feel the burden of what the past generation has gone through, and we feel sorry for their losses and all the suffer they have went through, and we learn about that a lot in school and from various activities from when we were young. So feel that we do like the Japanese culture and everything, but there's a certain point where when it comes to comfort women and the Dokdo issue and everything, we have to put the tension on, and we cannot cope. Actually, we cannot really. We have to have the apology, and we need their kind of sympathy, the same sympathy that we feel for our comfort women, the comfort women in Korea. So I totally agree.
But do you think you can be like 100% confident? Because it's kind of like country A, country B, right? And then country A, you're always told that country B is bad. But then you never read about what country B thinks. Like, for example, you never read like Japanese history books or Japanese newspapers. So if people tell you that country B is bad, like how do you know? Because you never talk to people on the B side.
About how the Japanese government and the newspaper reflects the comfort women issue,
But all your sources were from like Korean newspapers, Korean government textbooks, Korean history books.
But it's not totally lying. There is some certain facts that are true, and
Right, but I guess the question is can you really know the other side unless you actually talk to them or visit them or read their newspapers and books? I guess it's kind of remember when we talked about North Korea, South Korea, like the speaker, he said you don't really know North Korea unless you actually been there, because a lot of what we hear about North Korea from the media, from the government, is either biased or it's very outdated.
I agree with that, but the importance of what the government officials are saying and what they represent, they are the represent of the country. So we totally base our thoughts mostly on what the government says. Like individuals could be saying that we have to feel sorry about comfort women and we shown apologies. They might say that, but it's individuals, not the total government and not the total officials that represent the Japan. So that is what we feel that doesn't really show they didn't really apologize totally. That is why we were saying that.
But I'm not talking about like Koreans versus Japan. I guess I'm thinking as like I'm a teacher, you're my student, and you're saying these things about like Japan. But then I'm asking you like, well, did you talk to Japanese people or read Japanese newspapers?
Well, that is the limitation us students have. It's not like as if we study this specific topic for. I mean, that's kind of what we do when you're like a Christian graduate student. Like living in the U.S. with a few Japanese people. I studied with them. They come from Japan and they studied for like a year. And I did have. I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to talk about certain issues with Japanese students from Japan going to a prestigious school like Waseda, Torai, and so
kind of get their
right.
perspective.
So I was able to get this perspective, which is kind of, and I say this is fortunate because a lot of people who do want to have this access to information don't necessarily have it because, well, first, you know, it could be the Korean government who limits the information available for students. Let alone like the information on like unification of Korea, that is unavailable for students and also professors who want to teach it. It's only for like officials, and even for officials it's very difficult to get. So like I'm taking this course on like Korean unification, and even for this professor, like he wants to have, you know, he wants to teach this topic, but it's very difficult because the South Korean government limits how the limits who gets to publish this information and who gets to access these information.
Don't they want you?
They're not funded enough, basically, and they're not as important.
So anyway, just,
Well, that's like the outside.
right. Anyways, I just want you to like place yourself in my shoes as a teacher. How can I expose you to like different perspectives, different information, right? That's why I'm trying to like bring you like these speakers and like asking you to read like the newspapers. And the good thing with globalization is like all the newspapers, North Korean newspaper, well maybe not North Korea, but like Japanese newspaper, Iranian newspaper, Palestine Arab newspaper, they all have English version. I think even the North Korean newspapers are beginning to have an English version. So if you know English, you can access everything. Part one, and then and also like also I'm trying to like invite like different guest speakers to kind of bring in these different perspectives. So yeah, if you can bring in the Migun Wianbu or your Japanese friends from Waseda, you bring them to our campus, bring them to our class. You know, extra credit or Pepero. It's up to you.
They're all in the U.S.
We can pay them together.
or Japan.
I actually invited the Japanese embassy to come speak to our class, but I asked my Jogyo to take care of it. She's like, I keep getting a busy signal. Anyway, but I'm hoping that she can get through and we can get somebody next year, right? But we didn't have a lot of time. At least we got the North Korean speaker. That was good, right? We got a real first-hand perspective, what it's like to live in North Korea, you know. So I want to try to get, that for Japan as well. Okay? Yeah, that sounds good. All right, anything else? Do you hate anybody? Besides,
no, I love everyone because I'm Swedish. No.
you also love Mr. Shin?
Is there who?
Mr. Shin, the anti-multicultural policy.
I hate him. That's the only person I hate.
She finally hates somebody.
That's the one I hate. No, I don't like him. Want to talk about that?
We can actually talk about this maybe as a whole class, but it's kind of like, I don't know, like our class is learning about multicultural policy. Do you think it's important to invite an anti-multicultural policy organization to talk about multicultural policy? So she said, she says yes, right? Because I actually got a couple of like, on the evaluations, I got a couple of people saying, Professor E invited anti-multicultural person to speak in front of foreign students. And I was thinking like, so we should invite Mr. Shin only when we have Korean students, so we can talk about foreigners behind their backs. What kind of evaluation is that?
Yeah.
I think think if you invite a speaker like Mr. Shin, I think it's important to have both Korean students and foreign students and hear what they have to say.
But that's the thing. I'm not, because he's spoken Korean. I'm not really sure. But that's I also think that I
Did you read the translation that I sent you?
No,
Okay.
sorry. But no, this is just
Okay.
sorry.
Alright.
But this is just a question. Sometimes I get the feeling, or especially from in Sweden, that it depends on what kind of multicultural foreign student you are. Like if you're this doesn't matter.
Okay.
But if you're from, well, this is just in Sweden. But if you're from America, it doesn't really, he doesn't really count as like people who are against multiculturalism policies. Yeah, but they usually don't care about Western people. But at least that's like that in Sweden. So that's why I always feel like there is a racist thing behind that, because especially in Sweden, it could be like, oh, you're from America, and you can say one sentence in Swedish, oh my god, you're so cute, or stuff like that. But if you're from Iraq, and you speak almost perfect Swedish, but with huge accent, people will be like, oh, learn Swedish, come on, you live in this country. So, I know. Yeah, it is. You know, there's a lot of racism in all over Europe right now. So, but I just feel that there's a different kind of foreigners, I get.
But I think Mr. Shin's a little. I think it's not just racism from Mr. Shin.
No.
Because remember we talked about the English classes at university, right? And he thinks that he feels very oppressed by that. You know, how come we have to teach in English? How come we have to publish in English to become a tenure professor? You know, how come we cannot keep our Korean? So I would consider more of a Korean like nationalist.
Yeah. Just that issue, I think that was really interesting as well, because that's an issue. What kind of language? We need one language, and because of history, I don't say that that's good. It's about colonism and stuff, but that's English now, and so I think that I don't know. I don't really like that debate either, because it's like, but what are we gonna do? We've been trying this whole new language. It doesn't work. Now we have English. Let's just stick to that. And also, like the Korean students, they can also go abroad. And if they come to Sweden or Japan or whatever, they have English classes. It's just that if you want a globalized world, you need a globalized language.
So Mr. Shin doesn't like English. Emily says English is important. That might be true, but I hear from a lot of Korean students that too much English gives them a big headache. Was that you? Somebody wrote that. It's like, right? Because it takes a lot of money and energy and 힘들어, right?
But at the same time, I don't know, but Hanyang doesn't have that many classes in English.
Yeah, and a lot of the English classes are really bad.
Yeah,
It's like fake English.
That my friends attend, it's a lot of Korean in those classes too. I mean, that's okay. It's just that, or I don't know what you feel, but when I was trying to attend classes in English, there was not that much of a choice. So I feel like there is a lot of Korean classes still, right? Well, I know I'm happy with my classes. I just said that I don't get the feeling that English is taking over the school, or I don't know. But for me, it was quite hard to find English.
Right. No, I agree with you. Right. I guess it depends on your situation. Like, is it too much, too little? Okay.